Hey everybody, welcome back to Video. So today I got a fun and random episode for you guys this evening because we're going to be playing Sonic and the Fallen Star. Now this is not a new game, or released a few years ago, but when we talked about Sonic Overture 95, one of the developers on that, his game was recommended to me both by viewers as well as one of the other developers of Sonic Overture 95 as something to check out, so I figured I would give it a play, see if I wanted to talk about it in a video, and I will say I absolutely fell in love with the game, and it is another 10 out of 10 Sonic fan game that's basically doing what Sega will not do for fans some days. Before we get too far involved though, do me a huge favor, down below hit like and subscribe and ring that notification bell, definitely helps us out. And if you feel so inclined to want to support the channel, we got a Patreon link down below as well. Now don't get me wrong, Sega isn't terrible with Sonic. Obviously we got Sonic Mania, and that was an amazing 2D effort, and the most recent Sonic 3D games have been fun, if a little bit too experimental for my taste. But we don't get near enough 2D Sonic in our lives, and if you grew up with Sega and Sonic the Hedgehog, you pretty much always want more 2D games. So it is left to the fans to develop things like this, and Sonic and the Fallen Star is an amazing experience. It's got a ton of depth, a lot of fun special areas, a lot of different graphics in the different levels, and it has that overall sense of exploration and speed I absolutely love. And because it is a Sonic game, it definitely has some tricky physics where sometimes you can't run up the smallest hill, but that is just how Sonic the Hedgehog rolls, pun very much intended. But it is a lot of fun to check out these fan games, and I especially recommend that you tell me more about them in the comments below. I would not have known about this one if you guys didn't mention it to me. I took a quick look and I absolutely just realized that again, this is what I wish Sega was doing more of sometimes. Give us more 2D Sonic, maybe a game every like 3 years or so in that classic style would absolutely be welcome, and fans would be super happy to get these sort of things. There's a ton of modders and fan game developers out there in the gaming sphere that could even do this for Sega. Give the developer of this project, or Sonic Overture 95, free reins and a budget to make a 2D Sonic game, and I think you're going to get something absolutely incredible. Because watching all of the traffic fly by in the background here with the parallax scrolling, all of these vivid colors, all of these fun new characters, it just 100% works as far as a Sonic game is concerned. I would say this rises to the level of Sonic Overture 95 as well as Sonic Mania for a game that feels like it came from a full professional development house and not fans. That's not to knock fan games, they can be as good, they just obviously don't have the same amount of resources. And as we move into the first special stage here to get a Chaos Emerald, I love this 3D as well. It kind of has that Sega Saturn look with VDP1 and VDP2 doing the infinite plane scrolling, and it's a super effective look. And you will see here as I collect more blue orbs, we're going to increase our speed until we're absolutely screaming down, and that infinite road just looks so good going into the background. And this game definitely gives me those Sega Saturn vibes. If Sega Saturn could do proper 16:9 with its 2D capabilities, I feel like it would look like something like this. Well, leave me a comment down below and you tell me what vibes you're kind of getting off of this. Whatever you think it looks like though, the reality is this is an excellent playing game, and it really does give Sonic fans one more title to enjoy. I've basically gotten halfway through this. I'm just showing you the beginning third of it just so I don't spoil too much of the late game stuff, and I am having an absolute blast, maybe even the Sonic 3D blast, pun very much intended. And this is what I love about fan games. It basically feels like a game that Sega released that you never heard of until later on in life. I know we have stuff like Knuckles Chaotix on the 32X that have some really good 2D scrolling and a little bit better of that 32-bit 2D era look, but this honestly just has so many unique looks. I love it. I especially like the sprite scaling here on this enemy as well. The blowfish gets larger and smaller as you go around. It does have a lot of graphical trickery, obviously using a modern engine and a modern computer to run it, but even still it feels like it's a mix of the classic Sega Saturn era with a little bit more horsepower in the background. Sometimes the game does make you slow down, but that's always good in a Sonic game to give you a little bit of a breather. The levels are intelligently designed, there's a lot to see and do, and even as you get up to the top area, you'll see that highway even exists all the way into the background. This game is a visual treat, always giving you something to look at, even when you're flying by at Sonic's top speed, and all of Sonic's facial expressions are so well animated. The game also has an excellent soundtrack, one of my favorites for any Sonic game, so go ahead and listen for 45 seconds, I'll come back and tell you way more about the game and why I love it. It's got such a great soundtrack and it totally fits the game. While I will say this boss here is a little bit too Angry Birds for me. It's like Angry Birds had a robot baby, but it does make sense in the world of Sonic the Hedgehog with all of Dr. Robotnik's animal baddies. And it is a fun boss fight, but if you just stand underneath this bird, it can be relatively an easy win. Compared to some of the other boss battles, which I'll show you in just a moment, they are much more complicated and multi-layered and definitely make you think about the best way to actually beat that boss. As we move on into a different area, this game again just has everything I want and need out of a Sonic the Hedgehog game. It's got fast motion, it's got great animations, great boss battles, fun enemies, and that super charming, colorful nature that you know, love, and expect out of a Sonic the Hedgehog game. And I would say of any group of fan game makers, the fans of Sonic the Hedgehog probably put out the best content in my opinion. That is not a knock on anybody else, I just feel like Sonic fans and Sega fans really put in that extra effort to try to make a game that you feel could have been a full retail release, and that's always what you want out of these things. You want them to blur the line between fan game and retail game. And that's exactly what Sonic and the Fallen Star is doing. It is basically feeling and playing like a game that Sega themselves would have made and everyone would have absolutely loved. As we move on to some of the other boss battles, again, they can be so inventive. Dr. Robotnik here, or Eggman, depending on how you prefer to call him, with this gigantic mech, you have all of this fun stuff going on. You have the scrolling and rotation of the sprites, and then you also have this glove that comes out. You only can hit it when the fist is closed. If it's open, it will grab Sonic. Or there's another boss that takes place in a full sprint against a train. All of these crates are shooting out and you need to find the one that possesses the spring, but you need to pick the right one based on timing. When you do that correctly, you can get to the top of the level and then jump onto the boss's weak spot, but you do need to be patient because the game will trick you into thinking it's time to jump when it's not. This is another reason why I love this game. The boss battles are so unique and inventive. Every single battle is going to give you something new to do, and some of them are going to be a little bit of puzzle solving, trying to figure out how you actually damage the enemy. Put that into the fact that those sprites are absolutely gigantic and look so good on screen, and you really do have a recipe for something that feels very special, and that's what I want out of fan games. I want the love to come through for the franchise, and I want them to be new and inventive. And this game will also give you some really fun story elements with all of those sprites and 2D backgrounds doing some scaling as well. This definitely looks like something that could have 100% been done on the Sega Saturn, and I love the game for using those vibes. This really feels like if the Sega Saturn had spent one more year in development hardware wise and you had had a little bit more powerful of a 2D system in there, this is the type of thing you would have gotten. Or if there was a pure 2D Sonic game on the PlayStation 2 or Dreamcast, something that you would have seen there as well. And the stories are fun. They're all done basically just by pantomime, but you understand what's going on in the game. As we move on to the next zone as well, I just love this. The colors, the visuals, the sensation of speed, all of the detail in the backgrounds and the foregrounds. Every single square pixel of this screen is just filled with detail and charm. It feels like the artist spent an eternity trying to put this all together, and I'm sure they probably did, and there's a lot of different fan nods in a lot of the billboards as well. But I'm going to give you one more taste of the soundtrack because this level has a particularly good track, and I'll come back and talk a little bit more about the game, but honestly, I love this music, and I think you will too. So enjoy. The music in this game is so good, and I will definitely leave a link in the description below so you can play this. Even if you're just a casual Sonic the Hedgehog fan, you definitely owe it to yourself to check it out. It is some of the best 2D platforming I've played in the last couple of years. Between this and Sonic Overture 95, it's been a great time to be a Sonic fan, and I'm glad that people recommended me check this thing out because honestly, as much as I do know about gaming, there's definitely things that do pass me by, and this was one that I had never heard of before until you guys told me about it, and one of the developers of Sonic Overture 95 told me I should check it out, and that's what I love. I still discover new games to talk about on the channel all the time, and while I know this game has been out for a few years, honestly, if I didn't know about it, I'm sure a lot of you didn't know about it either, so definitely give it a go. But it's a fun time to be a Sega fan, it's a fun time to be a Sonic fan, and it's a fun time to be a modern version of retro games fan, because we're getting so much stuff, it's basically to the point where you can't play everything that comes out, and that is always a good thing. But if you have any other recommendations for recent releases in these sort of genres, genres, leave me a comment down below because maybe I will check them out and make a video out of them. But definitely give this game a shot. I think you're absolutely going to love it, and the best part is it's free, so there's a money back guarantee. If you don't enjoy it, I will give you your money back, and considering this costs nothing, that is a guarantee that is worthless, but honestly, I don't think anyone's going to hate it. See you guys next time. Bye-bye.